It is morning in Los Angeles and it is morning in America. I am your host, Casey Phoenix, and this is my morning political thought. All right, housekeeping stuff out the way, social media stuff, side news stories, which there won't be that many side news stories today. Um, thepurpleelephantshow.com, main podcasting platform. If you want to follow on Parler, The Purple Elephant Show, on Instagram, The Purple Elephant Show, facebook.com/, The Purple Elephant Show, on Twitter, at RealTPES. If you are watching this on BitChute, Dailymotion, or YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. On YouTube, you also have to hit the notification bell. That way you will know when I upload new episodes. Also, for my BitChute people, I will upload one or two episodes from the back catalog this weekend, in addition to whatever Purple Elephant Show episodes I do. So just know that. And more than likely, one of those episodes will be, Dear Media, you're the reason why the polls will never be right when it comes to President Trump. And that episode is an hour long. That's actually one of my longest episodes, if not the longest video episode that I've done. So I really want to get that up, and I think I'm going to push that episode a little bit more now, even though it's an older episode, because it's so true. And that will go into what I plan to talk about later for my morning political thought. As for last night, obviously, with side news, I have to talk about the debate. President President Trump is a trip. I love my president. Okay. And the thing was, I didn't figure out what he was doing until the debate was almost over. And there's some things I have to unpack here. All right. First thing is, well, by the way, I was right. The debate was an hour and 30 minutes, but then they were saying, well, no, it's 2 hours. And I'm like, but I thought it was an hour and 30 minutes. So that's why in the detail section, I put 2 hours, and I said an hour and 30 minutes yesterday during my morning political thought. But other people were saying 2 hours, but I'm like, they said an hour and 30 minutes. It ended up being an hour and 30 minutes. So I was right the first time with what I said yesterday. But up there, President Trump kept interrupting Joe Biden. He kept going in on him. I didn't figure it out until close to the end why he was doing it. Because some people, I was looking at what people were saying about the debate on Twitter, and the people who were supporters of Joe Biden were annoyed. It's like, will somebody just shut him up? Will somebody turn off his mic? Will somebody do this and do that? The reason it was a psychological thing. The reason President Trump kept interrupting Joe Biden is to make him lose his train of thought. Because President Trump, and it was, if you think about it, is kind of shrewd in a way, because everybody knows Joe Biden's situation. Whatever stuff Joe Biden was taking last night, it worked. Because I'm going to be honest, Joe Biden, for the most part, compared to what we have usually seen him do and say for the past year, he was somewhat steady last night. I'm not saying he was perfect or, that he was in A+ form or anything, but compared to what we have seen of Joe Biden, especially with President Trump constantly going at him, he was doing that because when people have mental, oh man, I hate saying this, when people have cognitive issues, they can lose their train of thought easily and totally be thrown off. And that was a gamble President Trump was willing to take. I'm sure President Trump already knew, with him interrupting, taking the approach or the strategy of, okay, I'm going to interrupt him. I'm going to just stay on him. I'm going to stay on him to try and make him lose his train of thought. I'm sure President Trump knew with that strategy that it might alienate some voters and turn some voters off. Like, wow, that's really extra. But at the same time, if the strategy worked and Joe Biden could not keep his train of thought, then it would have made President Trump look good. Like I said before, for the most part, Joe Biden kept his train of thought. There were things that were said that it was whatever. How he denied what the accusations about Hunter Biden, I don't know how you deny stuff when people have receipts, like literal receipts that Hunter Biden took that money from the Ukraine to Russia to China. There's receipts. And he just was like, oh no, that's not true. I'm like, wait, what? There's receipts. So, but for the people who don't like the president, they're not going to look for the receipts. They're not going to look at the receipts. Rudy Giuliani, when he went to Ukraine, he brought back a ton of stuff showing the corruption that tied to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. So that was one thing. The funniest part of the debate for me, because I know everybody had their part. Some people were saying it was kind of interesting when Joe Biden said, oh man, will you shut up? But the funniest part of the debate for me was when they were talking about shutdowns and Joe Biden started talking while President Trump was talking. And President Trump was like, well, I'm going to shut you down right now. And I screamed out loud. Now, I don't know what the viewership was. I can tell you between Fox News streaming, it was 1 million people streaming on Fox News from what I had seen. Like up until, it was about 1 million people. It was like 800 and something thousand, give or take. So up until 5 minutes before the debate started. Then it was about another 300,000 before the debate started, because I was just checking around on C-SPAN. And then I checked somewhere else, but it's not coming to me. But it was definitely close to about 1.5 million streaming between 3 platforms alone. Just 3 platforms that I just glanced at. That's not including all the other platforms. There were platforms. Steven Crowder was having his debate watch party. Value Entertainment, they were having a debate watch party. There were tons of people who had debate watch party streams going. So you had those streams. Mm-hmm. Plus you had people watching on TV. Then you have people that will watch after the debate is over. So, yeah. I can't wait to see what the ratings were for the debate. I really, really can't. And I'm sure President Trump is going to tell us because you know he loves ratings. But for the most part, honestly, I wouldn't say there was a clear winner in that. One thing Joe Biden did do was he pretty much hung himself on the law and order thing and on the Antifa thing. Yes, we know FBI Director Christopher Wray has said that Antifa is more of an ideology and all this other stuff, and Joe Biden brought that up. But for all the people with 2 eyes, a brain, and ears, they know that that's not the case. And for the people who support the president, we already know Christopher Wray is garbage. And if and when President Trump wins the election, I'm pretty sure Christopher Wray will no longer be head of the FBI. He will get the boot, as he should. I would actually be happy if he put Chris Christie in charge of the FBI. I wanted Chris Christie to be Attorney General, is what I wanted. But then we got stuck with Jeff Sessions, and then, well, yeah. So with that, I think Joe Biden didn't do any favors for himself when he was talking about Antifa was an ideology. Also, another thing that I feel won't stick out but should have stuck out more was when President Trump was talking about the favored nations in regards to prescriptions and what he said about insulin. Because he was talking about that insulin will be cheaper. He's like, it's so cheap, it's like water. And I hope that resonated with some people who have to deal with that, because that's a big deal. Because insulin is expensive. And because of how, I'll get hot the debate was, I don't necessarily want to say bombastic, but how hot the debate was, I don't know if that had time to resonate with people. They might have been caught up on all the other stuff. But that was another thing. One other thing with Joe Biden, where he wouldn't answer the question about packing the courts or getting rid of the filibuster. That was a big deal too, which him not answering it pretty much answered the question. The other thing that I didn't like was that Joe Biden brought up the fine people on both sides. Obviously, anybody who does their research, they know what the president was talking about. And then on top of that, Chris Wallace asking the president to condemn white supremacists when he's condemned white supremacists I don't know how many times. And when he talked, and then it was brought up what President Trump has done or what President Trump can do for the African American community. And Joe Biden was saying all this gobbledygook as if Joe Biden hadn't been in office before. And President Trump has done tons of things, whether it was criminal justice reform, whether it's the HBCUs, whether it's opportunity zones, whether it is funding for black businesses. The list goes on and on and on and on. So for people to act like President Trump hasn't done anything for the black community, that's crazy. It's crazy. And then for Joe Biden to keep pushing the shutdown issues related to the China Wuhan virus on President Trump, where it was clear President Trump was the first one to do a ban when other people said he shouldn't do a ban, Joe Biden being one of those people who said he shouldn't do a ban, and then Joe Biden changed his mind later and flip-flopped on it. So there were certain takeaways from it, but because it was so hot, it was difficult to let stuff resonate. But like I said, President Trump's strategy, that was his strategy to keep Joe Biden off of his game and make him lose his train of thought. Because I know President Trump is smart enough to know that he's constantly interrupting. President Trump knows when to take a step back, and then he knows when to take a step forward. And all of that last night was intentional. It was intentional. It was a strategy. Now, like I said, whether some people like that strategy or whether some people were turned off by that strategy, time will tell. So that's that. Right now, Jim Comey is testifying in front of the Senate. Because just so you know, I usually record these episodes around 8 p.m., not 8 p.m., 8 a.m., 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So Jim Comey is testifying right now. It's not going to be anything. They'll probably take a few things here and there. It's not like he's going to be indicted as soon as he leaves or tomorrow. I don't even know if he will be indicted. Time will tell. I think that we're not going to see anything until spring of next year is what I'm thinking. Spring of next year is what I'm thinking. So, what else? Nothing else in the news was really interesting to me. I'll just get to my morning political thought, which is don't assume that Democrats are voting for Biden. And this is for everybody. The reason I say this is because I keep on hearing people talking about, well, there's this many registered Republicans in this area and this many registered Democrats in this area. And I believe they were talking about the state of Florida. This is the closest we've ever been, where it's only 150,000 registration, only 150,000 people different, or registrations different between Democrats and Republicans, which is the closest it's ever been when it comes to people who are registered Democrats and registered Republicans and all this stuff. During the 2016 election, there were millions of people who voted for President Obama, but then turned around and voted for President Trump. I am one of them. Now, I changed my registration. For those who are listening to the show or watching for the first time, so those who have been listening to and watching the show, you already know this. I changed my registration to Republican because I had no choice but to in the state of California, because you cannot vote in the Republican or in the primary without changing your registration. So I had to change my registration to Republican so I could vote for President Trump in the Republican primary. However, there are people out there who may not want to change their registration to Republican in other states. And due to the current climate, which again, that goes back to my episode, Dear Media, you're the reason why the polls will never be right when it comes to President Trump. And like I said, I'm uploading that episode to BitChute this weekend. That the climate of everything right now being so polarized and people being afraid to say they support the president, some people being afraid to wear Make America Great Again hat, or Keep America Great hat, or wear this type of t-shirt or that type of t-shirt. Don't be surprised if some of those people who are afraid are Democrats, moderate Democrats, who are just keeping quiet. They call them the silent majority. But it's deeper than that, I believe. Because with the moderate Democrats, they could go either way. They could plan on voting for Biden right now, but then change their mind up once they get to the election. People are known to do that. But don't assume that just because somebody's a registered Democrat, that they're voting for Joe Biden. And, you can't assume that somebody's a registered Republican, that they're voting for President Trump. But it's more than likely that it would be a Democrat who would consider voting for President Trump than a Republican consider voting for Joe Biden. Simply because President Trump has an approval rating within the Republican Party. It usually averages between 92 and 96, give or take, for his approval rating. So his approval rating is very high. His enthusiasm, President Trump supporters, the enthusiasm is ridiculously high. So I'm just watching the media and all these people on all sides talking about the registrations. Well, this person's been registered, or, oh, well, we registered this many. Just like with Michael Bloomberg, with that situation in Florida. They were paying off the fines of people because they think that prisoners will vote for Joe Biden. That's not a guaranteed thing. It's not going to be a thing where it's like Ilhan Omar's group, where they're going around and collecting ballots and signing everything and doing this for them, allegedly, even though there's videotape, but these are minor details. It wouldn't necessarily be like that. But for Mike Bloomberg to assume that just because someone is a prisoner, or was a prisoner, that they will vote Democrat is kind of interesting. Angela Stanton King was also a prisoner, but she supports President Trump. One reason she supports President Trump is because of criminal justice reform. If any of those prisoners that Mike Bloomberg paid the fines for in Florida knows about criminal justice reform, then they might consider voting for President Trump, even if they're registered Democrats. When it comes to the economy is a big deal. There are registered Democrats that may vote for President Trump on the economy alone. They're like, I don't care about his attitude or if he's likable or his tweets or what he does. I only care about results. There are people out there like that. I'm one of them. I don't care about personality. I want results, because President Obama, he was a sweet talker. He could offer the most amazing platitudes and wonderful speeches and just everything else, but he didn't know how to execute. He didn't know how to get results. And there are people out there now who want someone who can get results, who can get the job done. We don't care about the personality, just get the job done. That's all we need. We'll worry about all the personality and all the other stuff later. Once we get the job done, then we can work on the personality stuff. So, and that's where the question comes in. Do you want someone who has a different demeanor but never gets anything done? Or do you want someone who you may not agree with their personality traits, but they accomplish every single goal that their campaign promised that they would accomplish? This is common sense, but as the saying goes, common sense isn't always that common. So yeah, that's my thought on that. Don't assume all Democrats are voting for Biden, because I honestly don't think that's the case. And that's all I have for my morning political thought. Thank you again to everyone who's been supporting, who have been liking, who have been listening to the podcast, who have been subscribing to the channels, whether it is on BitChute, whether it's on YouTube, or what have you. I sincerely appreciate it. ThePurpleElephantShow.com main podcasting platform. Until next time, be blessed.